Hello and welcome to week 9. So we are definitely in the home stretch now, and so hopefully you can start to see the light at the end of the tunnel. So this week we're going to be finishing up with the domain section of our textbook, looking at the social and emotional domains of development. So these are both covered in chapter 14, and so you will be reading the remaining portions of chapter 14. If you remember back when you were looking at creative development, I had you look at one section of chapter 14, but social and emotional take care of the rest of chapter 14. So you'll be reading the remainder of those sections in the textbook, as well as viewing the videos. One thing that I did want to make sure that I made very clear is that social and emotional development are put together in the milestones. They are in the yellow section, which is the first section of the milestones, but for the purposes of this class, as well as when you take CHD 165, we want to try and keep them separate. The reason is that I think we would all agree that social and emotional development, while they may be connected, they are separate. So when we're looking at social development, we're looking at how are children learning how to get along with other people, with their peers, with their teachers. Whereas with the emotional domain, we're looking at how are they learning to regulate their emotions. Now, we can definitely see how they touch each other, but the reason I wanted to make sure to keep them separate is because when you get to CHD 165, and you're going to be observing one child in the 6 domains of development, you're going to have to keep them separate. So again, even though they are put together in the milestones, just remember that we are trying to look at them as separate entities. So this week you're going to be finishing up with your journals. I hope that you've enjoyed doing something a little bit different. The videos for this week are not overly lengthy, so hopefully this last journal will not be something that is going to take you a very long time. But the big thing for this week is I'm also going to go ahead and introduce your final assignment, which is going to be a thematic unit. So as I'm pulling this up, I wanted to make sure that you understood that when we looked at curriculum planning, you saw that using themes is a really popular way that teachers orchestrate their classroom with teaching. And so we're going to use this final assignment as a catch-all for everything that you've learned about. But it really focuses on the domain. So you are going to have to get into the milestones, and hopefully you're going to have fun with this one. So when you go to assignments, and it's also going to be in this week's module, you're going to see the thematic unit. And it is going to be due at the end of the class, at the end of week 10, so you do have 2 weeks to work on it. It is not going to take you very long, I promise, but it is something that I hope you're going to have fun with. So what you're going to be doing is you're going to be coming up with a theme that you would use in your classroom. As I have said multiple times, I think it's really important that the assignments that you do are practical and applicable. So this is something that I'm hoping you're going to complete and be able to use, whether it's now or in the future. So choose a theme that you're interested in. Choose a theme that you know you're going to have to teach, because at least then you've already done some of the legwork. So I have gone ahead and attached the milestones for you again right here, because you are going to be using them. I have created a template that I'm going to walk through with you in just a second. And I also created a very detailed instructional PowerPoint just in case you get stuck somewhere. But basically what you're going to be doing is choosing your theme. Then you're going to want to find 10 books. You can certainly do more than that, but you have to have at least 10. Make sure that you include the title, the author, and the illustrator. And the reason that we're doing this is is so that if you do end up teaching this unit, you've already done some work about what books you would have in your classroom. So whether or not you have them in the book center, whether or not you have them displayed, whether or not you're going to be reading them to the children and using them for instruction, but find at least 10 books that you would be able to use as you are teaching children in this particular theme. And then what you're going to do is you're going to be actually coming up with the activities that you could do throughout your thematic unit that are going to touch on all of the different domains. And so I'm going to tell you about writing a standard and writing an objective. And then you're going to choose one of those activities and you're going to kind of build a little mini lesson plan. You are not writing a detailed lesson plan. I'm just asking you to put a few of the pieces in place. And so here's the lesson plan component, but I'm going to go through the template. So when we look at the template, you're going to see I've already created it in Microsoft Word, so it's easy to just type directly into. Make sure that you tell me what your theme is, so whether it's stars, whether it's dinosaurs, the beach, seasons, Dr. Seuss. As long as it is appropriate for young children, then I'm perfectly fine with it. Make sure, again, if you want credit, that you put your name on it. Remember, this is going to be for preschool ages because that's what most people are looking at going into, and that's where the milestones really come in handy. So again, here is where you're going to put the name of your thematic unit. Here's where you're going to put your list of books. You can number them, you can use bullet points, it really doesn't matter. But then when we get to the domains, you're going to see that you're going to come up with 5 activities. Now, I did put social and emotional together just to make it easier for you because they are together in the milestones. I figured you're at the end of the course and you would probably like a little bit of a shortcut. So I do have them together, but all of the rest of them are separate. So what you're going to do is, based on your theme, you're going to come up with an activity that your children could do at some point during your thematic unit that's going to focus on each of these different domains. So when I say activity name, I mean like a short name. So let's say that we're going to do the beach because it's summer and I love the beach. So maybe for physical, it's going to be that we're going to take a walk on a beach. So basically all I'm going to do is take a walk on the beach. So then I'm going to need to go to the milestones and I'm going to need to find one standard that is going to actually measure that I can make sure that they are learning as they are taking a walk on the beach. When you do the standard, you want to put all of the identifying information in it. So you need to put Virginia milestones of development. You need to put the domain is physical and physical health. It's the orange section. It's strand whatever, and then D3, and then write out the whole thing. The more that you put in this section, the easier your lesson plan is going to be. So just make sure that you write out everything for the standard. But then when you write the objective, so many people try and make this harder than it needs to be. By the time that you've come up with your activity name and you have found your standard, you can write your objective. So the way that the objective goes is the child will, then you simply are just going to copy and paste the standard that you had from up here. So whatever D6 or B3 or A5, whatever it was, when they do their activity, and you've already come up with your activity name. The reason that this works is because the standards are already written using Bloom's taxonomy, which hopefully you are all familiar with, but if you're not, you will. But they're action verbs that are measurable. And we have to be able to say how we're going to measure whether or not they're successful, and that's where the activity comes in. And then for the short description of activity, I literally mean a short description of your activity. So a sentence or two, just kind of a quick blurb about what is it they're going to be doing. Just make sure that in your description, it makes it clear why it fits into this particular domain. So obviously with young children, when they are learning to walk, that is part of physical development. And so I could see how that fits into the physical domain. So then you're going to do the same thing for creative, social and emotional, cognitive, language and literacy. And then once you've done this portion, I want you to choose one of these. So you're not coming up with something new. So choose one of them, and this is where you're going to put it into the lesson plan. So your lesson title, you already have that from your activity name. Your standard, you already have from up here. Your objective, you already have from up here. The rest of it is what you're going to fill in. So the age group is going to be whether it's 2-year-olds, 3-year-olds, 4-year-olds. Remember, I do not want to see an age range of 3 to 5 because it is next to impossible to make sure that all of your children are going to meet that objective. What materials do you need? And be specific. So if they need glue, don't just say glue. Tell me whether it's Elmer's glue, rubber cement, glue sticks. Think of this as writing it for a substitute so that someone could come in and teach it exactly the way that you are. And then these last few are going to be prior knowledge. So basically, I want to know, what do the students need to know? So that's the content knowledge. But also, what do they need to know how to do? And that's the skill set. So you want to make sure that you're setting your students up for success. And so that means that you need to find things out ahead of time before you give them this particular activity. For this anticipatory set, which is also called an advanced organizer, what are you going to do to grab their attention? So are you going to sing a song? Are you going to read a book? Are you going to show a short video? Are you going to play a game? Something here that's going to get the students excited about what you're getting ready to do. The lesson procedures, this is a step-by-step process. So starting with your advanced organizer, going all the way down to your closure, what is everything that you're going to do? So even if it seems like someone should know that's what they're going to do, pretend that you're writing it for somebody who does not. And so whether or not you use bullet points, whether or not you use numbers, I would tell you not to write it in paragraph form. It's very difficult to follow procedures that way. So if you do bullet points or numbers, that's a little bit easier. How are you going to close your lesson? So what are you going to do at the end to kind of review? This is where you want to go back to your standard and make sure that you're reviewing what it is that you wanted them to learn. And then assessment. How are you going to determine that they actually learned what you wanted them to learn? The only thing I do not want to see is a test. Actually, I take that back. I don't want to see a test or a worksheet or flashcards. Those are the worst things that you can do with young children. They only promote rote learning. So some things that do work are observation, asking questions, but be specific. If you're going to ask them questions, what questions are you going to ask them? If you're going to observe for something, what are you going to observe for? But basically that's it in a nutshell. And so as long as this is done by the end of week 10, then you are good. That is your last assignment for this class. The only thing you'll have in week 10 is a final discussion board. So enjoy learning about social and emotional learning and development. And I look forward to reading your final assignments, your schedule as that's coming in. And let me know if you have any questions about the thematic unit assignment, but hopefully everything's there for you. So have a great week, and I will see you in our last week.